So there are a couple of things that we're gonna do now. One is just to kind of manage the first page. So the first page, if there is nothing after the domain name, you'll see this kind of page not found error that isn't reasonable. So let's make it something more reasonable. What we can do is just to create a view to handle that request, right? So basically, because that is kind of the root, I don't want to put the view over here, so I'll put the view for that somewhere in the major project folder. So I will go ahead and then create a new Python and then views. Okay, so here we need a couple of things from REST framework. Import generics, again from REST framework, reverse, import reverse, and then from REST framework, response, import response, import response, and finally from our post.views, import post list. Okay, so we want to tell whenever this URL has been called, basically show a URL that will direct us to the post list. That's the idea that we're going to follow. And that would be pretty simple. So we're going to define a class and then call it API root. That is a view, right? So we're going to define generics and generic API view. Let's compare this with this view over here. So this was generic list and retrieve, and this is just a generic API view, right? So let's give it a name. Name is equal API root, and a get for that would be, so when someone is calling that, would be requests self and the request that is coming, and hard and kw works, and what we'll return is just a response. So return and a response, and that response would be a dictionary, because we can basically show not just one URL but many URLs. In our case, we have just one post. And what is that post? That post is nothing but this. If I go to this URL, which is will be referred by this URL, we have a post here, right? So basically that is the post. So if I go here and I will call posts, and that would be reverse of post list, and name and request would be equal to the request. And then now where this is going to be called, that is going to be called here, right, in the main URL. So in the main URL, I can say path is equal to this, and then views. So let's import a view that we just created. So from root and then views API. Import views. So I'm pointing to this views, right? And here I would say from that I have an API root that I just created. I want this to be as view, and I want the name to be equal as views, and then API root and name. Okay, so that would be it, and there we go. So now my posts is the name that I defined here. So this is, let's go back to views here, this views that we just defined. So that would be my post. This post is this post, and this reverse is basically coming from post list, which is this, right? So now it is much more reasonable. Okay, now if I click on this, I'll go to that, right? Now let's go to the other issue, which is basically we want this to, when we are retrieving or requesting one of the posts, we want the view none to be increased, right? Let's see how we can achieve that. And that would be really simple as well. So what we can do, we can go here and go to views. Okay, so what we need over here, basically we need to add some function and basically override the function. So that would be required. Do you think we are going to be required in post list or post detail? So the question here is that we want, whenever we're looking at certain posts, we want this to be increased, right? So when I click hit enter, I want that to be increased. So that is basically a post detail, right? So that would be here. And this, I just note that we need to put a detail, right? So, okay, so that, yeah, so let's do that. When I do that, then here we need to define a get, and then self, and then request, and argt, and kwargs. Okay, so we're kind of overriding. So this time not only it will do what it used to do, but also will do something else, right? And that something else would be here. So that would be post object equals self dot get object. Okay, so get the object that is called, and what will be done here is that object, so that post object has a view none, right? So that has a view none. We want it to be +1. Okay, and it's not finished yet. What we need to do, we need to save it. So we can go ahead and say post object and save. Okay, and then we want to return the super method of this. So super, and then here get, and then request arg and kwargs. Okay, and that should be it. So now if I hit 1, let's stop and run server again. So I'm going to stop server, Control C, and on one server. Okay. And let's start up with this. Posts. Okay, and now I'll go to a certain post. Let's say it's post 1. Okay, so this is view num 1, 2, and it just keeps adding. All right, so this is very common tip that we are doing usually. And here I showed you basically the idea was that we're going to override the default behavior it has by just simply adding this get function here. And here we're getting the object, we're getting its view num property, which is defined here, view num property in the models. And each time we're adding by 1 and save it, and that would be it.